Happy New Year. I guess it's still okay to say that. It's about the middle of the month, so yeah, Happy New Year. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the First Responder Wellness Podcast. This is episode number 65. Thanks for joining me. My name is Conrad Weaver. I'm the director of the PTSD 911 documentary, and my goal is to bring you content that will improve your life. Hey, before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about an event coming up later this month. This is our very first episode of the First Responder Wellness Podcast Live. I'm hosting a live interactive event on Zoom on Friday, January 31st at 12 noon Eastern Time. To register for free, click on the link in the show notes or visit our website, ptsd911movie.com, and click on the live link there. This is a brand new thing I'm doing, and I want to bring you along. So each month we'll host a live event on Zoom with a special guest. And this month I have Dr. Phil Bequee. He is a psychologist and passionate about helping first responders live a better life. So don't miss this live event. It's interactive. You'll be able to ask some questions of Dr. Bequee, and it's going to be a fantastic event. So that's Friday, January 31st at 12 noon Eastern Time. The link is in the show notes to register. Seating is very limited. We've already have, more than 70 people have registered for this event. So please jump on board and get your name in before the registration closes. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing that. And I will see you there. And now back to the show. Are you looking for ways to improve your mindset or to make self-care a priority? I know it's a challenge. In the new year, we often set resolutions or we have new goals, but life gets so busy and we often put these things on the back burner. It's the one day I'll do this mentality. But it doesn't have to be this way, and making changes may be easier than you think. My guest today is Dr. Kimberly Miller. Dr. Miller is a licensed police and public safety psychologist, a sought-after speaker and consultant who has been inspiring and motivating individuals in the first responder profession for more than 16 years. This conversation is full of practical strategies for managing daily disruptions, maintaining consistency, and prioritizing self-care. So get your notepad ready because you'll want to take some notes on this one, so stay tuned. Hey, it's the new year, and it's just a reminder that I'm here every Wednesday with a brand new podcast episode, so please subscribe so you won't miss an episode. And if you like what you hear, share it with someone. Share it with your friends and family, your coworkers, and so forth. I would really appreciate it. And be sure to leave a review. This helps me know what you like and what you don't like so I can bring you content that you want and need. Thanks for listening. And now here's my conversation with Dr. Kimberly Miller. Well, Dr. Kimberly Miller, thank you so much for joining me today. It's good to have you on the program.
I am excited to be here. I was thrilled to be able to meet you at ICP and hear all the amazing stuff that you are doing with this podcast and how many people you're reaching and how you're changing lives. And I was super honored that you asked me to be a guest. So I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, it's been a fun journey so far, and we'll see where it goes in the coming years. You never know where this windy path that we're on will take us. So tell us a little bit about you. What's your backstory?
So I always have a hard time answering that because there's, obviously so much to say. Well, let me hit the high points. I grew up in Alabama and I went to Auburn University, War Eagle. That is very important to understand when you
I
live in the
won't hold that
States.
Against you. So
right, you're one or the other, and it's important to tell people who you are.
Yep.
So went to Auburn, graduated in 93, degree in psychology. My other 2 degrees are in psychology. I got my master's at Ball State University in Indiana. And then I currently live in Colorado. And what got me out here was doing my PhD at Colorado State University. And I'm one of these strange people who knew very early in my life what I wanted to do when I grew up. I figured out when I was 17 that I was put on the planet by God to be a psychologist, to serve, to help others, to bring people together, to help people work through challenges, etc.
So at what point did you start working with first responders, and how did that evolve?
Well, again, that's one of these God things. I was at Ball State in Indiana working on my thesis project. And my project, how I got to doing my project is I had worked when I graduated Auburn. I came back to Birmingham and I worked in this place called Alethea House, which is a drug and alcohol rehab center. They have inpatient, outpatient. I worked in the evening program with the men and outpatient. And in one of the classes I developed, we were talking about, what's underneath addiction, whether it's alcohol or pills or crack or whatever, like what's underneath that? Like what is driving you to the drug beyond the physical addiction, right? Mental addiction. Like why are you going back? What's the thing that you're trying to fix? What's the emptiness? And when I heard my clients talking about their drugs and the consequences of the drugs and the things that they're missing, everyone always said the same things, not in the same way and not with the same words. But when people talked about that and their struggle and the emptiness and the grief was always around relationships, they no longer had a sense of competence. Like maybe before they were good at something or had a good job. And now they just feel like, why am I even here? I don't have a sense of competence. I'm not good at things. Number 3 was always, I don't know how to cope. Like I can't cope with negative emotions. I can't cope with divorce, disappointment. So coping skills is number 3. Number 4, which I sort of alluded to, was they lacked a sense of meaning or purpose in life. And I can tell you that a lack of meaning in life is directly correlated with depression and directly correlated with suicide. When you have no hope and you've been through whatever you've been through and you're like, why am I even here? Why am I suffering? Why won't the pain end? Whatever it is, you're like, it's more attractive to think about being dead because there is no hope. There's nothing to look forward to. You don't believe that there's a purpose to your life. And that was consistent. And I will tell you, I know we haven't got into tools and all that kind of stuff, but if you're listening to this and you're struggling today and you don't know what to do and you don't know where to call and you don't know where to reach out, I would, number 1, I would ask you to do this little exercise that I'm talking about. Do you feel like you're competent? What's the quality of your relationships? What's the status of your coping skills? How much purpose do you have in life? And finally, the 5th one was autonomy and freedom. Do you feel like you're free to make decisions, or do you feel like you're stuck? You're stuck in a career, you're stuck with bad mental health, you're stuck in a bad relationship, you're stuck in debt, and there's no hope of getting out of it. Like, how free do you feel that you can actually make positive decisions? So just write down a few notes about that. And if things are really bad and they're really scary, please call 911 or call a suicide hotline. Don't sit home by yourself. But I will tell you this, there is always hope. There's always hope. I mean, the fact is you woke up today. The second fact is you're watching the podcast. So that means something. So take advantage of what you have today. And I can get back. I'm sorry, go ahead.
A couple months ago, I was at one of our screenings for my film, and I was talking to, I think it was a retired police officer. He may have been a firefighter, but he was retired, and he was like, I've dealt with this stuff all my life, this PTS stuff. There's really no hope for me. And I looked at him, I said, look, your heart's beating. If your heart's beating, there's hope. And there's always something that you can move toward. If you're alive, there is a way to get out of your situation. There is a way to get better, to improve your life. You just got to be willing to do the hard work sometimes.
Yes, and it is hard to get out of a dark space.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, It's hard. I have been in dark spaces. You probably in your life at some point have
Sure.
been in dark spaces.
Yep.
And I'm not going to get into compare the darkness like, oh, no, I have it worse. Who cares? It's dark.
Mm-hmm.
We all struggle. We all end up in the darkness. And it is our responsibility, no matter how bad it is, no matter how exhausted we are, no matter how sad we are, no matter what little hope we have. If we're still here, as you said, there's hope. So figure out one thing to do, as simple and silly as that might sound. Figure out one thing to do. And as its basics, have you had a shower today? Did you put on nice clothes, not bummy sweats? We all love it. But if you physically put on a sharp outfit, I don't mean a dress and a suit, put on something nice. Your mindset will be better. Take a shower. Your mindset will be better. Don't go to fast food. Cook a meal. Or if you're going to go out and you have your favorite restaurant, then order takeout if you don't want to go sit at the restaurant. And come home. Don't sit on the sofa or your big comfy chair. Sit at the table. Have a nice meal. Go for a walk outside. Go for a drive. Get in nature. You can do something today. And when I say that, I am not speaking from a naive place, and I'm not saying that a good meal and a shower and nice clothes is going to fix you. But it's one thing you can do today to feel a little bit better and get closer to the light.
How much of this is I mean, you're talking kind of about a mental process, because, where we think is where we go, right?
100%. So now when I say this, I always like to have a caveat of, are there brain chemical issues? Yes.
Sure.
Do some people have hormone issues? Yes. Are some people struggling with addiction? Yes. Do some people have other medical challenges that put them in the dark? 100%. But let's put those to the side, because those are external factors and some internal factors that might make getting out of the darkness harder. And it's so hard to say this because it seems so simple, and it's not. Mindset is the biggest thing you always need to work on. Whether you're talking about mental health, whether you're talking about challenges in your relationship, whether you're talking about, should I retire or not? Whether you're, let's say, early or mid-career going, I hate this job, but I'm stuck because I have to have a retirement and insurance. There's always something else to do. But what story do you tell yourself every day about yourself? A lot of people in the darkness, and a lot of this is kind of unconscious, but people will say, I'm not worth anything. I'm no good to anybody anymore. I'm so messed up. I'm so screwed up. I can't do anything. I let my whole life go. I wish I would have done X however many years ago. And we get stuck in the reality of where we are, instead of saying, okay, I'm here, like embrace it, like this is where I am. So now what? And getting out of being so immersed in the moment that's where your story stays, right? Because you could get up and say, I'm not worth anything. I have no purpose. Everyone doesn't like me. Okay. But if you keep telling that story every day you wake up, it'll be Groundhog Day. And it'll be the same story again, the same emotions again. If instead you get up and say, yeah, this is awful. I feel like I have no purpose. I have lost my friends because of bad mistakes. Now what? Okay. Let me go talk to people about a purpose. Let me go talk to my pastor, my priest, a counselor, the one friend I have left, whoever. Or you just start thinking about, what are you good at? It's the first step of many And believe me, I understand the dark, and we want to get instantaneously better. Like, we just want to feel good.
Mm-hmm. I think we do things on a daily to affirm or reaffirm our mindset. Recently I was on Facebook, as one does, and I saw an acquaintance of mine from years ago. She struggled all her life. She posted something that this always happens to me, and that was her comment. And I thought, yes, it always happens to you because you're talking about it. You're saying
Yes.
this always happens to me.
Yes.
So we reaffirm those things. So how can one, if you're in this darkness, how can one look objectively at reality to get out of that, to even take that first step?
Well, it's tough because as you said, we stay in a cycle where we have a story or we're looking for XYZ to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all know, as simple as this is, whatever you seek, you find.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for X, Y, and Z throughout your day, you will find that. Mm-hmm. Or if you're looking every week for something to happen, you'll find it. Mm-hmm. So let's switch it around and say, okay, well, here's reality. And I love to tell people to write stuff down. So here's another exercise. Write down where you are today. You might be in darkness or you might just be in struggle. But write down, what is the reality of my life? What's upsetting me? Where do I struggle? What's empty? Which needs do I not have met? Write it down. And then I want you to write down, now what? And then I want you to write down 2 to 3 things, not more than that because it'll be overwhelming. 2 to 3 things that you can do today to make yourself just this much better. Okay, so now what? I don't have purpose in life. Okay. What do I like doing? Like outside of work, job, I love giving and serving. Fantastic. So write that down. Okay, in what spaces or what population would you like to give and serve to? Well, I love to counsel the new couples at our church. Fantastic. Or I really love working with kids that are in struggle. Super. Call the school district. See if you could be involved in helping some of the kids, mentoring some of the kids, helping to coach, whatever it is. Do something. Mm-hmm. And again, you're not going to instantaneously feel better. Mm-hmm. The small things you do, like taking a shower, is not going to fix you. But you're trying to build more habits. So let's say you're struggling with hygiene because you're in the dark and you're depressed. Then get up every day. First thing, just take a shower. Or if you're struggling not having meaning or not having healthy relationships, okay, then when you get up in the morning, just say, what's one positive thing I could do today in relationship with others? Just pick one thing. Maybe you need to apologize. Maybe you have forgotten to be consistently kind to our spouse, because y'all know we do not take care of people at home all the time. We are nicer sometimes to people outside than we are inside. And if your partner loves when you cook because they have a favorite dish, then maybe plan that and cook, even if you don't feel like it. When's the last time you bought somebody flowers who loves flowers? Whether that is a partner, a spouse, your mother, your niece, a neighbor who loves flowers. Like, when's the last time you thought about how to give to others? Assuming that's what you want to work on. But it's the small things that are cumulative over time. And when you think about it, none of us went from being in the light, being happy, having a positive experience to, 2 miles deep in a cave in the dark. That doesn't happen overnight. Mm-hmm. And it also won't instantaneously get us better. And honestly, nor would we really want that, because we have to learn from being in the dark, how to work through the dark, how to get back into the light, and sometimes even more importantly, through navigating the darkness, you learn how to help other people in the dark, in the cave. Because I know that if I did not have struggle, if I have not myself been in the deep, dark cave, I couldn't relate to people who were there.
Mm-hmm.
I can't reach my arm out to people if I'm like, I don't know why you're in the cave. What's wrong with you? Be happy.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
It sounds like, as a part of the 12-step program, I think is it the 12-step where you're giving to others, where you're of service.
Yep.
How much is that and it sounds like that's a key to really a healthy future, is to think outside of yourself, to think about others.
100%. And I would say that with the 5 needs I talked about, that ties into purpose and relationships and coping. Because there's never been a time that I did something kind for someone else or gave them a surprise I knew they would want, etc., when I didn't end up feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I felt good wasn't because, oh, look at me, I'm the person who did it. It was because of the reaction I got from the people. It was from them going, oh my gosh, I can't believe you remembered it was my birthday. Mm-hmm. Or, oh my gosh, I can't believe you remembered from a year ago. I told you how much I liked your Christmas cookies and you made them for me again. Whatever it is, if you're struggling, get out of your own head. And like you said, that cycle, you're keeping, hunting for the bad, you're going to find it. Get out of yourself. Mm-hmm. Go do something for others. And I guarantee you, that will give you something positive to have as a foundation to move forward.
So we know at so many first responders, they get into that business because they want to be of service to others. And so their whole job, as a job, was helping others professionally. So now perhaps they're struggling with PTS. Maybe they have been diagnosed with PTSD. Maybe they're drinking too much. Maybe they're doing all the things that to cope with the stuff that it's because they've helped others. So how can someone then take that and say, okay, well, I'm supposed to help others now again? How can you make that how can you justify that or make that a thing?
So people who their job is to serve, whether that's public safety, psychology, medicine, teachers, etc. Mm-hmm. Our whole purpose is to give and serve. Mm-hmm. The main thing that we're not doing when our purpose, our life, our job is to serve others, we are not taking care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And believe me, I can give you a list of excuses and reasons why I am too busy to take care of me. Mm-hmm. The reality is, when I don't take care of me, even though I'm serving others, what I'm actually doing, I'm serving, I'm giving, but don't realize I'm walking backward into the darkness because I'm focusing this direction. This direction is other people. This direction is the light. This direction is me serving and helping you and getting so much fulfillment from that. Mm-hmm. But then I also don't realize I'm walking backwards. And that's when I'm like, oh gosh, I'm so burnt out. Oh, another call. Oh, that person called again. Or, oh my gosh, how many times do I have to talk to this person about making these mistakes? Mm-hmm. And we don't allow ourselves permission to put ourselves first. We don't allow ourselves to take time for ourselves. We justify not sleeping, only eating fast food, etc. And I know this is so uncomfortable. And the reason I know it's uncomfortable is I struggle too with self-care, work-life balance, all that kind of stuff. And whatever it is, and if you don't have something right now, what would it be to serve yourself, to give to yourself, to help you drop what I call the poop of life and fill up with something good? And it's interesting we're having this conversation because just yesterday, I was talking with one of my friends about something I was struggling with or am struggling with. And she said kind of what I'm telling you. She goes, so what you going to do? And I was like, oh, I need to hear this. Thank you. She's like, so what you going to do? And I was like, oh, I'm going to finally go do my retreat again. She was like, very good answer. I'm like, but that, and I know this cognitively, but her going, so what you going to do? It was like, I have not taken normally I go on a retreat by myself every year, usually in January, for a week or so. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to block out the time and I'm going to do my retreat, and I'm not going to worry about anything else, because that has been the main thing I have neglected. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's other things, but if you think about what is the thing that I keep saying I don't have time for, that I know is creating some of the burnout, stress, well, I need to do that. Mm-hmm. Now, some people who are listening might go, gosh, I don't do a retreat. I don't have the thing. Okay, well then ask yourself. And again, I write it down because we're too much in our head anyway. Put it on paper. So write down, what is a physical location where you can just go, oh. What's a physical location where you would be willing to not have electronics? And I understand we probably have some executives on the call. I can never be without it. Well, go to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. You won't have a choice because it will be off. And the other thing also, as a quick side note, if you're an executive and your story is, I can never be gone, then you need a succession plan. Because everybody has to have a number two. If the chief's gone, who's the deputy chief? If the sheriff's gone, who's the undersheriff? If the comm director's gone, who's the comm manager? And if you look back and go, oh, man, I got Bobby, I can't be off. Well, then you either need to do something with Bobby or you need to get a different one. Because that's the other thing that we justify is, well, I can't be off because I have to do everything. And believe me, and I'm sure you understand this too, as a small business, if I'm gone, no work happens.
Right.
Like I have people that help me with marketing and whatever, but no client stuff happens when I'm gone. So I can very easily go, well, I have to work all the time because if I'm not working, I'm not serving.
Yeah.
But nobody, the world has not been destroyed because I go away for a week or so.
We had this very same conversation last week with my wife. We were out in Illinois with our new granddaughter that we just
Congratulations.
had. Thank you. So it's number 3. So we were really excited. And my wife's a school administrator, so she's a principal at a middle school. And she kept, kind of texting her assistant principals and different things that are going on. And I looked at her and said, when are you going to turn that thing off? Because you're technically on vacation. You took vacation days to come out here. And I said, do you trust them to handle the situation back there? She said, well, yeah. I said, well, then put the phone down and just let them handle it. And that was a hard thing for her to do. But once she did that, I think she felt some freedom.
Yeah.
And she realized, yeah, I don't. And I've often said this to, people. I said, if you get hit by a Mack truck today, guess what? There's going to be someone in your seat tomorrow.
Yep.
You're not, and we're not expendable. I mean, and we're not not expendable, we're
right.
So, and I mean, that's a kind of a crass thing to say maybe, but it's true. We sometimes look at ourselves as more important than what we really are,
And I was thinking about that the other day, why do I make excuses about why I don't go on the retreat? What is my thing? So I realized yesterday, and I knew this, but when she challenged me, it made me really go, okay, what am I doing? Well, my story has been basically, that's not as important as me serving others. So the exact same thing we were just talking about, I am focusing all outside of the cave, meanwhile, not realizing I'm backing up into it. And that has been my story for many years, whatever the thing is, whether it's a retreat or doing something else for 3 days for myself or whatever. I'm like, oh, well, I can't because I have to focus outside the cave because I don't want to get back in there. All the while, because I'm not taking care of myself, I'm back and back and back. And another thing that is a tool, and it might seem so simplistic, it's impossible. It was in that moment I was like, okay, stop. When you go home, book your retreat, Put it on the calendar and be done with it. Like, put it on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Our problem many times is we don't put ourselves on the calendar, on our calendar.
Right.
And then we end up, I know this happens to you. We end up with days that are open. We're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I can do whatever. And then the day gets filled with other stuff that's not something we wanted to do or something fun for ourselves, et cetera. So when I came home, I was like, well, booked. Mm-hmm. It's now on my calendar. So I can't not do it now because it's already there. And I'm prepared to tell people during this time and this time, I'm not going to be accessible. So and it's true what you say.
So I have a question for you. So I've been dealing with this today personally. So I have not a strict regimen in the morning, but I have a schedule. Now I get up, I walk the dog, I eat some breakfast. I have my quiet time, my devotional time, prayer time, because I'm a person of faith. And then I work out. I have a little small gym here in my basement. I work out and do my calisthenics and all the things to be healthy. And today I had a dentist appointment at 8:00. So I had to get out of the door by 7:30. Totally messed up my schedule. And on top of that, I had a massive headache, still have it, but it's kind of a sinus thing because of this weather system that's coming through. So what do we do when our schedule gets just screwed up? And now my day feels like I've just messed up my whole day. And it's been distracting for me, because I've been focusing on that. How can we not allow those things that come up throughout our days that mess up our routine, our schedule? How can we keep that on track, even though we have to do that? I had to go to the dentist, and for me, I booked a thing at 8:00. So kind of shame on me for booking it at 8:00, right in the middle of my morning routine. So how can we manage that better?
So, and I can totally relate. And here's sometimes what I do. It's bad, but I want to be relatable and tell people, look, I struggle too. So sometimes I'll do the same thing. Like, I'll have a plan, and I'm not super structured. I'm organized, but then I'm kind of like, I can go with the flow too. So if one thing messes up, I don't usually like stress about it. However, when I'm not in a good space and something's not different or something else moved around in my day, I'm like, well, shoot, then I'm going to do whatever I want today, which is not on the schedule, is not on the plan. But because a couple things were wonky, then I go, okay, so do whatever, or screw around all day or whatever it is. And it's hard because, and that's just about life. When things don't go our way or in our grand plan of the way things should be, because we all have one, then we kind of panic in some ways. We get stressed, we have anxiety, whatever it is. So one of the things that I have been practicing, though I'm not always 100% successful, is okay. So it's supposed to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and it became 2 and 4. And I never got to 1 and 3, and it feels not good because I didn't get to 1 and 3. So again, I would say, okay, stop. And just the simple word, stop. Okay, your day didn't go as you planned. You want to do 1 through 4 in the morning, didn't happen. You did 2 first, and then you did 4, and you didn't get to 1 and 3. Okay. And I would write it down again. I know I keep saying that, but they have proven in neuroscience, when you physically write things down, not typing on the phone, not typing on a computer, when you physically write it down, there is a stronger connection built in your neuro pathways and whatever you're writing. So it helps with memory. It helps with creating discipline, creating habits, etc. So write down, okay, number 1, how many hours left in the day do I have? Assuming it has to happen on whatever day. So, okay, I've got 4 hours left in the day. Okay, is it possible to do 1 and or 3 within the 4 hours? Or did it have to be a morning thing or something? And if you could accomplish even one of those, okay, then accomplish it. If you can't, because whatever had to happen, like you couldn't do the meeting or something had to happen in the morning, then I would write down, okay, when am I going to do those? And then put it on your calendar. And I'm old school. I have a paper calendar, and I like that way better than electronic stuff. But if you can reschedule it, then put it on the calendar and have it rescheduled. Then you don't get to go, okay, and now I can mess around and do unproductive things. So you got 4 hours left in the day. You know you can do number 3. Number 1 has to go to Friday. Okay, what are you going to do with the other 3 hours? And then I don't care what you write, but it has to be one of 2 things: something that's going to be healthy and good for you, not laying on the couch for 4 hours binging Netflix. You could do that after your productive time. What's something good for me to do, or what's something that I need to do productive for my work, stuff around the house, whatever. Write those things down and then do them before you allow yourself to lay on the sofa for hours at a time and not be productive, because that's just going to leave us in this kind of darkness of, oh, I messed around for a whole other day, and kind of pattern.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's great advice. And I really like the calendar thing because this is something I did early this year. I had a goal of writing a book this year, and
Wow.
I knew that if I didn't put it on the calendar, I would not get it done. And so
Yes.
every Friday, that's my writing day in the mornings. So I put that on my calendar. It's just a standard thing every Friday. I usually go to a local coffee shop and, take my iPad and I peck away at, at the story that I'm writing.
Yeah.
And so that's been a huge thing for me. And I'm getting to the point where I'm now in the editing phase and I'm getting done with it. And hopefully in the next couple of months, I'll be able to get it published. But I knew if I didn't have it on the calendar, I wouldn't make it a priority.
Well, and I love the way you said that. And it's funny that you say it, because my partner has been telling me for, I don't know how many years. He's like, you've always talked about writing all these books. And I said, I know. But what do I say? I don't have time. We all say that.
Yep.
I mean, it is bad, because I say it all the time too. The reality is, and I encourage y'all to say this, don't ever say again, I don't have time. Be honest with yourself. And I would write it down. I am choosing to not write a book now. I am choosing to not take care of myself. Like, just write down the honest truth and look at that. And then ask yourself, are the things on the list that you're not doing keeping you from something that you say that you want? Whether that is getting in shape, eating healthier, spending more quality time with your spouse partner, doing stuff for yourself so you don't feel crispy and deep fried and burnt out and negative and no hope. Because most of the time, including me, we set goals for ourselves, and here comes the thing that everyone does every year, New Year's resolutions. And then ask yourself, if you've set one, did you achieve it this year? And not to be negative, but when I set a New Year's resolution, I don't ever do it. Because it's like this big thing. Oh, it's January 1st and I'm going to do this. And I don't do it. But if I ever do stuff like you, and I have in my life, Friday is write day. I'm going to put it on the calendar. And unless there's a disaster, I will be writing on Friday, whether it's an hour or 3 hours or the whole day. Like, that is what Friday is. When you put it on the calendar and you don't let yourself, you don't make excuses to get out of it. Look at the time for yourself, whether it's self-care or whatever, is like a business commitment. Because if your boss wants to have a meeting at noon every Wednesday, then guess what? Unless you're gone, you're in that meeting at noon every Wednesday because it's important. You have to then prioritize yourself and say, and my writing of my book is important too, because if I don't, I'll never get it done.
And it's been good because I often, like, sometimes my wife is off on a Friday and she says, "You're going to go write today?" And so she reminds me of that.
Yes.
And I say, yes, of course. That's, I'm going, I'll be at the coffee shop, I'll be working on it. And so it's been a really good process for me. And I haven't hit, there's Fridays I miss because of, various things, but
Yeah.
it's on my calendar for tomorrow. So I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. And after my doctor's appointment, I'll be at the coffee shop writing. That's what I'm going to do.
Yes. Well, it's interesting you talked about your wife and you don't have to have a ton of these. You got to have somebody that's willing to push you out the door,
Yeah.
whether that's to go away for a weekend, whether that's to go write. Like you have to have at least one person in your life that says you are not taking that off the calendar. You've committed to doing it. And I'll use exercise because that's always in somebody's head. Then go for 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh, what's 30 minutes going to do? Well, if you're there 3 hours, it's going to do the same thing that 30 minutes does. But 30 minutes is going to be way more productive because if you don't want to go for like the whole day at the gym, probably healthy, and you're going to be more productive if you do 30-minute bursts than you try to make yourself go in for 3 hours. Plus, y'all know the next day you can't walk because you've done new cardio machines or weights and you're
Yep.
so sore. Then if all you can think about doing is 30 minutes, then do 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But people will say, well, what's 30 minutes going to do? Yeah, but 30 minutes, and I'll just do some math because I'm not going to try to even do it in my head. So let's take 30 minutes times 60 days is 1,800 divided by 60 for 60 minutes. You now have 30 hours of exercising in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
But we forget that 30 minutes over time adds up.
Yep.
It's not trying to, you're like when you go on a Friday, you're not trying to write your whole book that day.
No way.
Because it's too much.
Right.
But if you're people like you and me, we're like, oh, but what's 30 minutes going to do? And we find ways to excuse the thing. If we would just do 30 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day, it doesn't matter what it is, we would get there.
Mm-hmm. I call it, so actually I talk about this in my book. I call it chunking it out.
Yes.
I'm basing my book on my bike ride across the country last summer. And I often talked about how there was times when we hit these massive hills and they were long and hard and strenuous, and we had heavy bikes. And so what I would do is I literally would look to a point about 10 feet ahead when the hill was especially steep, and I would pedal to that point. I can do that 10 feet. And then I'd look another 10 feet ahead and go to that point. And before I knew it, I was at the top of the hill. And so I call it chunking it out. And it's the same thing. Even when we were training for this, I remember one training ride I was on, and I was about 5 miles in, and I thought, this is going to be really hard to ride. We were going to average 60 some miles a day. And I was only 5 miles in on this training ride. And I was like, how am I going to do this? But then over time, that 5 became 10, the 10 became 20, 20 became 40. And pretty soon it was nothing. It was a piece of cake to do 20 miles. It's just those little things that add up significantly. Yeah. And I remember I was talking recently to our worship director at our church, and I've made a commitment to get the guitar back out and start playing again. And I said, in January, my goal for January and for the new year is to play my guitar 15 minutes every day. And he said, if you do that, you will be better in that time period than 90% of the people who pick up a guitar.
Now, why would he say that to you? Kind of break that down for people. Like, why would he say, because 15 minutes is not a lot of time versus if you said, I'm going to do an hour every day or whatever. So why would that work? And why would you be better with just,
because I can do 15 minutes. That's easy to do. You pick it up, play 15 minutes. I'm done. Oh, in fact, I did this the other night. I was going to play for 15 minutes. I ended up playing for 45, but it's the consistency. It's doing it because most people don't do that every day.
Right.
Guitar players, if they're really into it, yes, they're going to play every day, sometimes for hours, if they're really passionate about it. But most people that are just guitar hacks like me, they're not going to play 15 minutes every day. But if I make that commitment in a year's time, who knows what I'll be able to do on a guitar, in a year's time if I've been consistent with that.
Mm-hmm. Let me do a little bit more math because I want to give you some numbers. So there are 27 days between now, I don't want to freak everybody out, between now and January 1st, right? We have 27 days left. Okay, so if you have 27 days left and you just could do something for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, and for math purposes, let's just say 10 minutes, you will be 27% better at whatever you pick today than you are today. And I love what you said about compound. So I kind of call that the compound effect over time. It's the same reason we should put money in retirement at 20 versus 40, because compounding interest over time is what makes us rich. So compounding practice over time makes us better guitar player, a better spouse, more healthy and fit, blah, 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 fill in the blank. And the other thing I've realized about the chunking it out is two things. One is the thing you said, I can do 15 minutes. I don't know that I could do an hour or an hour every day. And though we all are in this kind of fast food, I want it now world, we feel bad. We instantly want to feel good. We have, like back in the old days, you had to put the food in the oven to reheat because there weren't microwaves.
And it took a few minutes to warm that oven up,
Yes, nothing is instantaneous. So for everybody listening, pick something you can do. If you can only do 10 minutes of something, then do 10 minutes of it. Because as you said, eventually it will become 15, 20, instead of 5 miles, you're doing 10, 20, and then 20 miles is not hard anymore. And then you do 30 miles. Oh, that's kind of tough. But then 30 miles isn't hard anymore. And we just have to get out of our own head about, I have to have it now. I feel bad. I must amazingly feel good.
Yeah.
What's the small things? The other thing I was going to say that I like about what you said was, and of course I just forgot it. Let me think. Shit.
Welcome to my world.
Oh, I hate it. It was, of course, in my head, I have
the
this.
Thoughts float through my brain and they just float on out.
Gosh, darn it. Anyway, I forgot what you were going to say. Let me do some math. So you said 15 minutes every day, 365 times 15 equals divided by 60, right? For 60 minutes. You need to quote people this. It's technically 91.25. You will be 91% better in a year.
Wow.
Huge 91% better at what you start today with just 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's amazing when you think about it. And that's also 91 hours. And we think about instantaneously, well, I want to be good at this. Well, if you have not been doing it or practicing it, even if it's just self-care, you're not going to be good at it.
Right.
But if you add up the 15 minutes over time, you'll be 91% better. And at the end of the year, by January 1st of 25, you would have spent 91 hours playing the guitar. You're going to be amazing.
Yeah, that's, and if you think about it in the area of mental health and wellness and taking care of ourselves, if I just spend that 10 minutes a day on a walk every day,
yes,
what's that going to do for my mental health?
It's a game changer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we think, oh, I can't take 10 minutes. I can't take an hour. I can't walk for an hour every day, but you can walk 10 minutes.
Right. Or read your Bible.
Yeah.
Or go to the one bathroom in your house where it has maybe multiple doors behind it. So you could lock every one so the kids have to stay away. Your spouse has to stay away. For 10 minutes, just sit there and sit in silence. It doesn't have to be something huge, but it could be. It could be once a month, get a massage. It gets,
That'd be nice. I could take one today with my headache.
yeah, well, and I will say, and this, I guess, makes the point of many of us do the small things on a regular basis, which help,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes we forget to do the bigger things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people do the big things, like they always go on vacation, and during their vacation, they're doing something for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But then they don't do little things. So they put all their hope into the beach vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And then if that goes wrong, oh, your whole year's done because you don't do the small things. So for me, I at least 2 to 3 times a month, I have a massage
Mm-hmm.
because I have really bad neck issues. And if I don't do that, I talk about not functional. I get migraines really bad. I get exhausted. I get grumpy. So I am fairly good at the small things, but the big thing I'm missing is just blocking time out and going on my retreat and going to be by myself.
What's
Go ahead.
What's one thing that a first responder can do? Perhaps they're grinding it out. If they're a firefighter, they're working 24, off 48 sometimes. What's one thing they can do to begin to take the first steps to getting to a healthier place?
So a couple things. And again, write it down. Write down what's one thing I could do today that could bring me peace. What's one thing I could do today that when I do it, or I'm thinking of, it's a brain like mindset training, you could just go, what's that thing? Maybe it is reading your Bible if you haven't. Maybe it's going to church. Maybe it's getting a massage. Maybe it's allowing yourself time in your car between physically being at work and physically being at home. We don't always have to have the radio on. And by that, I mean music. I'm not talking about radio if you need to be on it. But we could sit in silence. Or once you get home, if you're in your work car that has a radio, go sit in a different car or take your other car out where you can go on a drive for just 10, 15 minutes, whatever you can do, and just go do that. Be by yourself. Take some deep breaths. Go sit in nature. And what I want to say about that is there's a lot of talk, and I don't know how much research you've done. I've done a little bit, not as much as I want to do, on this whole concept of grounding.
Mm-hmm.
People talk about the grounding sheets or the grounding mats you can either stand on or lay on, and how that changes free radicals and all this other healthy stuff in your body. And what that whole movement is about, having physical connection with the earth. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying you have to spend $1 million on grounding things. Go in your backyard, take your shoes off and stand there. Mm-hmm. Or go to a park and go for a walk. Sit in the grass, whatever. Be connected with nature. For me, one of my favorite things to do, that's my big, take a breath, it's all going to be okay, is going up to Rocky Mountain National Park. We actually have a condo up there, and that's where I will be on my retreat. Is go up there, be alone, and go in nature. And that is so healing for me.
Yeah.
So if your thing is fishing or swimming or whatever, get in contact with something in nature, because that will make all the difference. Oh, another real quick thing I thought of. Almost every night, depends on weather and if I'm in the middle of doing something, but almost every night we have beautiful, just land behind us. We don't own it, but it's just like farmland. Mm-hmm. So we don't have close neighbors, thank God. So about every night, I will try to go on our back porch. I don't know if you'll be able to see these. I just take a picture and I look at the sunset. Mm-hmm. And I've had a whole bunch of those I have done. Let me find them so I can show you a few. Every night, and I'm telling you, with just doing that, every night, I take a deep breath. I'm in a better mental space. Oh, here was a good one. I don't know if you can see that well. But every night I do that. And every single night that I do that, it changes me. It kind of gets me out of my head. with whatever's going on. Like you said, the thoughts we think all the time and we're searching for bad stuff. Every night when I go out and I sit on the back porch and it's quiet and I take some pictures, that's my 5 or 10 minutes of just breathing. And that makes a difference. And then the beautiful thing is at the end of the year, I have hundreds of pictures of sunsets that I could put like on a video doohickey thing on the phone. Oh my gosh. And I can think back, not to the bad stuff that happened over the year, the stressful things. I look at all the amazing beauty that I was able to see over the last year by going out every night and taking a picture of the sky.
I love that. As part of my daily process when I walk the dog, I get out, right around sunrise time. And actually yesterday we had a beautiful sunrise here in Maryland. It was stunning. I took some pictures and did that same thing. And that's just, yeah, I totally get that. And getting outside for me has been just really transformative. And I'm super jealous because we used to live in Loveland.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You've never told me that before.
Yeah, years ago, back in 2000, we had moved out there we were just out there for 2 years. Loved Colorado. Loved and the Rocky Mountain National Park was our favorite. That was our weekend haunt. We went up there almost every weekend and just did hiking and all the stuff. And now actually, after we moved to Maryland, I convinced a couple of my buddies to go with me back out there, and we hiked from Lake Granby and over the Rocky Mountain National Park, 3 days in the backcountry, backpacking. We were going to summit Long's Peak, but then we chickened out and didn't do that. But it was an amazing. But that whole area there is just fantastic, and so I'm so jealous.
Well, you should come back on vacation.
Definitely.
But I think two things. I know two things happen. And the cumulative effect of those was enormous. So number one, being in nature is huge, and it's healing, and it gets us out of our head. A second thing is being in nature without this and without email. And I know some of you believe that if you don't have this like hermetically attached to you, then life is over. But as you said before, you know what? Somebody's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And yes, I understand if something horrible happens and you're an executive, you'd want to know, okay, fine. They can call you for that and you can answer that. But the rest of the time, you're not available because someone who is physically there at work will figure it out until you can get on the phone or when you come back in a week or whatever it is. But we tell the story, I got to have this, I got to have this, I got to have this. And then we actually create an addiction. We are addicted to this. We are addicted to the internet. We're addicted to social media. We're addicted to instant gratification. And the beauty of doing that hike or doing your ride, it's not, we get ourselves out of our head. We get ourselves thinking, well, let me say it this way. We put ourselves back in the moment. And most of us don't live in the moment. We're like, oh, hold on, let me get a picture of this instead of experiencing what it is. But the beauty of your ride is you get 100 miles of experiencing beauty moment by moment by moment, along with the struggle, the challenges, the rewards. And it's the same thing when I go outside. I have 10 or 15 minutes where I'm in the moment. I take a few pictures. It's not like I'm out there doing this the whole time. I'm taking a couple pictures and I'm just sitting out there breathing.
And for those people who were born, in this century or in the more recent years, there was a time when we weren't attached to this. You had to actually like go to the wall and answer the phone and dial this thing in a circle, to make a phone call. And we survived. We lived. And sometimes that's I look back at those moments and I think, man, wouldn't it be nice to have that again, and not just be bombarded by all this technology 24/7. But it's just a matter of managing that and realizing that life can go on without being attached to our technology. And, while it's brought many people together, it's also brought us apart.
100%. And I finally thought of that thing I wanted to say that you had said, and it gets back to one of those 5 needs. We talked about autonomy and freedom being a basic, need that we have, that when we don't have that, we tend to be in the darkness or get into an addiction of whatever kind. You get freedom and autonomy through discipline and effective choice.
That's so antithetical. I mean, it doesn't seem to be that would be the case, right? Freedom because of discipline,
right? Right. I mean, it's like, well, no, the whole thing about freedom is doing whatever I want. How can I have freedom with discipline? Well, you create that every Friday when you go and write for however long, because it's on the calendar. It's something you're doing for you. You're also doing for others to help them, inspire them, share with them your things you've learned. But when you put it on the calendar on Friday and you do it all the time, you have now checked off the thing that's been sitting. Oh, I want to do the book and I don't have time to do the book. You've checked off the thing. Now you have freedom because you have done the thing that has been on the list. And I would say for everybody listening, don't write 10, 1 to 2 big things that you have not been doing. Number 1, it should be a self-care, wellness, something. And the other thing can be something productive. If you want to write a book, do you want to become a woodworker? You want to play guitar, because you want to serve and give and let other people experience that, or you just want to clean the house, doesn't matter what it is, then put that down and just be disciplined about it. And here's another thing, organizing, cleaning the house. It's so good for mental health. If you have the junk drawer, clean it out. We all have one. Just go through it, throw stuff away, reorganize, go to Bed Bath & Beyond. Can't do that anymore. Order on Amazon, addiction, but order on Amazon some of those little drawer organizers and organize the drawer. Yeah. And some people might have a small house or apartment. Some people might have a big house. And people go, oh gosh, cleaning the house is so overwhelming. Do 1 room a day. Or if you're talking like your master with a closet and whatever, then just maybe the closet is going to take 3 days to organize, but do your bedroom and then be done with that. And don't allow yourself to get in the story of, well, but that's only the bedroom then. And I have to discipline, write it down, just do the bedroom. And then in a week, or even if it's 2 weeks, it's all done now. We have to get out of instantaneousness, I guess. And one other thing I want to say about being in the moment. There's a great book I want to recommend to everyone. It has changed my life. And it is called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. ECKHART TOLLE. And he talks about a lot of things, and it's all kind of related around mindset and how you think about the world and how you navigate the world, et cetera. It's a great book. But one of the most brilliant things that he taught me in reading the book, and now I talk to my clients all the time about it, is happiness and mental health. And being in I have to do it right now, I have to have it right now kind of instantaneous society. He talks about that many of us, for mental health and just our daily life, we put off happiness because of reality. And you had asked me before, how do you deal with reality, but then get out of the darkness? And that's why I said, okay, so write down the reality and then go, okay, now what? But just like your friend that you said keeps looking for XYZ and then she always finds it and she tells the story, this always happens to me. Okay, number 1, because you're looking for it. And number 2, you believe because life is like it is right now today, that it must be that way tomorrow. And then the next day, it must be that way because that's how it is. And we get so stuck in talking about and telling a story to ourselves about, well, this is how it is. I don't have any friends. This is how it is. I don't know what I'll do when I retire. I'm stressed out. I don't want to retire because I'm going to step into this void of nothingness. I won't have any meaning anymore. I don't want to retire. Okay. Then find another source of meaning. And I'm not saying it's instantaneous, but figure it out. If you're thinking about, oh gosh, I'm going to retire in 3 years, what am I going to do? Well, then you've got 3 years. Figure it out now. Don't wait to retire. You step into a void and now you're suicidal. So he talks in the book about stop talking about how it is. Instead, use your now to talk about how you want it to be. Because that's how you're going to get there. It's an idea of law of attraction. I know a lot of people go, oh, that foo-foo stuff. It's not foo-foo. It's real. Because if you talk about how you want your future to be, there's no way that future won't come to you. It will happen. The other thing he talks about is, we put off this happiness. We say we want to be happy and relaxed and all this, but actually we don't, because we don't have the discipline and the consistent choice to get us there. And the thing that really kind of slapped me in the face in this book was, you have never been happy in the past, and you're never going to be happy in the future. And I was like, what are you talking about? Especially future, because we say, I'll be happy when I pay the house off. I'll be happy when I buy the new boat, the new car, the kids get out of the house. We put off happiness until whatever happens. But he says, you've never been happy there, and you've never been happy here. The only time you ever have to be happy is right now at 12:17 p.m. on Thursday. That's it. So, are you happy now? I can say, yes, I'm honored to be on your podcast. I'm having a great time. But I want all our listeners to be able to write down, are you happy now? And if you're not, why aren't you happy? Why are you not allowing yourself to be happy? And then find one thing. And maybe for some of you, it's, I'm alive today. Or, I took my dog for a walk. Okay, well, having a dog is fantastic. That's pretty amazing, happy thing. And he talks about the cumulative effect of that is we're perpetually never happy, never fulfilled, and we constantly, as Thoreau would say, live a life of quiet desperation. Never getting to what we want, never allowing ourselves to feel happy, and assuming that's the elusive thing that exists anywhere else other than now.
Wow. This hour has gone by so fast. It's been an amazing conversation. And we have a lot more to talk about. I think we'll schedule another one of these sometime after your retreat and see how that went. And we'll dive deeper into some of these things. And I think you've given us some really food for thought and some action steps that we can all take to get to a better place. So Kim,
and
thank
I am
you so
excited
much.
to tell you how the retreat goes when I come back from that. So that's another whole accountability thing. Thank you.
Yep.
You don't get to, I don't get to get back on until I've done my retreat. I love it.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And I really appreciate your time today and your insights.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Thanks, Dr. Miller, for being on the show today. Hey, be sure to check out the links to her website and resources, and you can connect with her there. Don't forget to subscribe and to share the podcast with your tribe. And please remember that you are not alone. If you need someone to talk to and don't know where you can turn, you can dial 988 for help. Until next time, be well, take care of yourself and those around you, and go out and do something great in the world.